Hey, this is Evan Shapiro. I'm at Content Crossroads here at South by Southwest 2025. I'm here with Steve Bagdasarian, who is the Chief Commercial Officer for Comscore. Is that correct?
That's correct.
What the fuck does a Chief Commercial Officer at Comscore do?
I manage pretty much everything besides product and engineering. So the business side of the organization came in here a little over 2 years ago. Had kind of an ambiguous title, growth. But the short story was just growth, whatever that means.
It's work.
But the reality was a company that been around for 25 years, tremendous assets, really entrenched in kind of two very different camps of measurement leadership, right? Traditional television and kind of the traditional web-based measurement lens, under a thesis, selfishly a bit from a practitioner's perspective of, when these worlds merge, what is the asset? What is the role of measurement in the future state? And so took this role on a little over a year ago to kind of organize the business around a more kind of cross-platform, user-centric view of where this part of the ecosystem needs to go.
And so I believe we are in a multi-currency world, a multi-measurement world.
Sure.
Right? We were just on a panel about the user-centric era and how to change business models to meet the moment where the user is control of their viewing and entertainment experience. What differentiates Comscore in this moment in time when there is competitive, product out in the marketplace around measurement, around balance?
Yeah, I think your initial comment there about the delineation between multi-currency and multi-measurement is an important distinction, right? Because, currency, while it's a bit of a tired term, it still is a reality of how we think about, technology or data assets that are used to be able to verify, if you will, transactions, right? And what's evolved in that conversation in the traditional sense with traditional pay TV, if you will, and broadcast, moving that into a currency of record for the streaming space that transacts completely differently is a critical milestone that needs to be completed. Then you think about the role of other forms of measurement that come in and layer and actually start to delineate the difference of what is happening at the consumer level, whether that's attention, whether that's outcomes, right, driven through shoppable experiences or through media mix models. All of these things start to converge on itself. But for us, it's really about taking the differentiation of our asset class, right? Comscore is unique because we are the only, and we believe very strongly in accreditation for the transparency aspect, but accredited for both local and national television. And it's built on the back of this unified single view of our methodological approach, right? Which starts at the most ground level, right? Starts at a local level and rolls up to national. So the sum of the parts or the sum of all the local view rolls up to a national figure, and national can be driven down to a local view. We think that is uniquely differentiated.
So it's instead of starting on a national basis and trying to create a sample on a national basis that's truly representation.
Yes.
Or looking from the local up.
Correct.
At behaviors regionally, and then weighting the sample that you have based on those DMAs and those localities to a national sample.
Correct. And I think the important distinction with that and why we feel that the market is turning in need of that type of partner is because ultimately when we think about the role of addressability through, programmatic infrastructure, right? Whether it's PG, PNP, or open market, that is a granular level story, right? Audience addressability is an individualized optimization opportunity. And so when we think about how our data set applies to the future state of programmatic and converged media, we have a great and very granular data footprint to be able to lever the methodology into these new formats.
And what do you, so you've been in the business a minute, even though you still look like a very young man. What is your market intelligence telling you at this moment in time? As we enter the upfront and new front 2025, what is your network? What are the signals you're getting about what this marketplace will be this year and into this upfront?
Yeah. So look, I think the future state is this idea of we've spent so much time over the history of the industry and my background, I started in the ad agency world, right? I started in media investment, and then I transitioned into the technology side, and I operated as a sell side entity for a long period of time. So seeing both those business problems now emerge around this kind of new consumer reality, right, of choice and optionality, this idea of buying at a broad-based view, right, this kind of mass reach vehicle that has now quickly pivoted towards an outcome-driven reality, right, based upon the efficiency of how media dollars need to be transacted, the role of measurement being able to inform mid-funnel, right? That optimization opportunity that sits there to make the media work harder, to inform how you think about content development and content distribution. I think that's going to be
bring more agility to television.
Correct.
Basically.
Correct.
To make it more, to emulate more the digital arena.
Yes.
With this more premium.
Correct. And I think what we're starting to see within there is there are just distinct audience groups that exist, right? And a lot of it is driven by, again, just the pure reality of auction in market.
And how they view with their own experience.
And some people can, we see it where there's some consumer groups that consume long form content in short form clips, various, right? And chunks of period of time. And they'll come back and they'll revisit. We also see a distinct reality that, the opportunity in this age for advertisers to be able to capture incremental reach, double the size of what their initial buy looks like by being able to incorporate some of these newer channels is a data story that needs
to follow. It's basically following a psychographic across many different channels as opposed to just buying against demographic or pure reach.
Totally. I mean, we've done the job of buying broadly. Now it's about optimizing against audiences. At the end of the day, that's the only currency that matters in terms of how you actually need to.
Do you think that kind of optimization is going to be one of the more important urges in the media buying conversations, this upfront and new front?
It's in the new front side. I really see this momentum building behind the OEMs to capture this view of, again, I keep referring back to the term not optionality, but optimization. And, I think there's an element where the traditional...
Ultimately, personalization. It's addressable, it's optimization, but it is very much personalization.
Exactly that.
Consumer.
Exactly that, right?
We promised them when we introduced all this technology, but we don't necessarily deliver on it.
100%.
Part of it is measurement.
100%, right? Measurement has a big role to play with that, just based upon how we think about targetability and the role of addressing that audience, but also things like frequency capping, right? To clients and so forth, because we've all had that as a consumer as a new point. So
this is the consumer role.
I think this is a real theme for the new fronts. I think the upfronts there's going to be an element of traditional that still exists, but I really see, and this is conversations that we experience in the market right now, the view for 26 is going to be defined by the dollars that are left over after the upfronts that are going to be put into this new model. And I think that's the capture of the upfront balancing itself against the new front in 25.
So we're going to weigh our investment in the upfront and then use whatever chunk we have left to really invest in newer areas. So the smaller the chunk in the upfront, the more goes into these new.
That's correct.
And the amount going into the upfront has been less.
Correct.
More money is going into these future and scatter and other elements to it. But the optionality, the flexibility is really a watchword there. I want to be able to move my money around.
Yes. And there's systems now and infrastructure in place that should allow for you to do it. Now,
absolutely.
A big part of this is always just the history of workflow, right? But you're seeing movement in the market begin to disrupt that. But I think this is going to be an interesting year of that convergence.
And the more the television can offer that optionality, that convergence, the better they will do in competition with digital.
Those that do it faster will gain faster market share and retain that market share. That's our thesis.
Cool. This is a great conversation. Thanks for coming to South by. Thanks for being on the panel. Did you have a good time on the panel?
Great time. Great group of people. Great format. Appreciate you having us.
Cool. Thanks, man.
Awesome.
We'll see you next time from Content Crossroads at South by Southwest 2025.